Chapter 6. It was January 18th. We were now in the middle of the Indian Ocean. I went up on deck for my morning air. As usual, I saw one of the sailors appear. He looked out over the sea. This time, what he saw scared him. He hurried below. A minute later, Captain Nemo came up on deck. He took the spyglass from the sailor. He looked hard at the water. Then he and the sailor began to talk in excited voices. I thought I would see what all the fuss was about. I lifted my own spyglass to my eye. Captain Nemo snatched it from my hand. "You must not see that," he cried. "I'm sorry, Professor, but now I am going to ask you to keep the promise you made. You must let me make you a prisoner again." I had no choice, so I went below. 4 men were waiting for me. They took me to a small room. Ned and Conseil were there too. Before long, they brought us a meal. Since there was nothing else to do, we ate it. Then we each sat down in a corner. To my surprise, Ned Land fell right to sleep. Then Conseil also dropped into a deep slumber. I yawned. My eyes closed. I heard the hatches closing and felt the ship starting to dive. I thought, Nemo drugged our food. And then I passed out. I woke up in my own room hours later. I found that I was free once again, so I wandered up to the deck. Ned and Conseil were already there. The sea was calm and the sun was shining. There was no sign that anything strange had happened. That afternoon, I was in the salon working on my notes. Captain Nemo came in. He looked sad and tired. "Are you by some chance a doctor, Professor Aronnax?" he asked. "Why, yes," I replied. "I was in medicine before I joined the museum." "Then would you please have a look at one of my men?" He led me to a cabin near the back of the ship. There lay a man of about 40. Bandages covered his eyes and head. I undid them and looked. The poor man's head had been smashed. I felt the man's pulse. It was fading fast. His hands were already starting to get cold. "There is nothing I can do," I told Nemo. "This man will die within 2 hours." Nemo's eyes filled with tears. "Please leave me alone with him then, Professor," he said. That night, I heard some men singing. The song sounded like a hymn. The next morning, Nemo invited us to go on a walk underwater. We put on diving suits and carried our own air in tanks. About a dozen men from the crew came along. We walked for about 2 hours, down to 900 feet. Then we entered a cave made of coral. The men stopped. I saw that 4 of them were carrying a long bundle across their shoulders. We were at a funeral. They were burying the man who had died during the night. I watched in shock as the sailors dug the grave. In the shadows, I could see the mounds of other graves. I also saw a huge cross of coral. The men lowered the body into its last resting place. Then, with sad hearts, we made our way back to the Nautilus.